In Germany, the Reichstag has this day declined to expropriate the property of the former ruling houses, and the matter shall now go to the people themselves by referendum next month. In London, the general strike enters its third day, and Mr. Shapurji Saklatvala, Indian-born communist member of parliament, has been sentenced at Bow Street to 2 months' imprisonment. And in this country, the Trade Union Educational League calls upon American labor to make common cause with the locked-out British miner. This is Tribune of the Plebs, the news of the day given whole. Thursday, the 6th of May, 1926. The German Reichstag has today declined by a vote of the right and center to enact the law that 12.5 million Germans had set their hands to demanding, the law that would have stripped from the former kings, princes, dukes, and grand dukes the wealth they have continued to draw from the German nation since the day they were turned off their thrones. In November 1918, the German Revolution put an end to the German monarchies. The Hohenzollern in Berlin, the Wittelsbach in Munich, the houses of Saxony and Hesse, the Saxe-Coburg, all were turned out of their palaces by the workers and soldiers of Germany in revolt. Of their thrones, the princes were dispossessed. Of their estates, their forests, their palaces, their stocks, their bonds, and their bank accounts, they were not. The new republic, which the workers had brought into being, settled itself upon the throne the workers had emptied, and proceeded then to negotiate with the very men whose throne it had been a compensation for the property that was no longer entirely theirs. That negotiation has gone forward these 8 years. The prince's lawyers have grown rich upon it. The state governments have signed away to the deposed houses sums of public money that would shame a medieval bishop. Forests and country seats and city palaces have been settled upon men who have no claim to them whatsoever. In the autumn of last year, the working class of Germany had at last had enough. The Communist Party of Germany proposed a popular initiative for the full expropriation of the former prince's wealth without compensation. The Social Democratic Party, after some weeks of hesitation, joined the campaign. 12.5 million Germans put their names to the petition, more than enough to compel the Reichstag to take up the question. That question was put to the vote in Berlin today. It did not pass. The Communists and the Social Democrats voted in favor. The German Nationalists, the People's Party, and the Center Party voted against. The Republic, faced with the choice between its working class and its princes, has chosen its princes. By the law that governs popular initiatives in Germany, the rejection does not bury the proposal. It passes the question instead to a popular referendum, which has now been set for the 20th of June. The German electorate will then be asked whether the property of the former ruling houses is to be returned to the German people. The press of the right in Berlin and Munich is already in full cry against expropriation. We shall keep listeners informed of the campaign as it develops. To Britain, where the general strike is now in its third day, the Cabinet's mood has lifted somewhat. A handful of bus routes have been put back into operation by volunteer drivers. Government supply arrangements have begun moving food from the London depots under police protection. The British Gazette has produced a second number, larger than the first, in which Mr. Churchill assures the public that the strike is nearing collapse. It is not nearing collapse. The men who walked out on Monday night are still out. The miners are still locked out. The trains are still in their sheds. The London Underground is still dark. What has been gained is a handful of routes manned by university students and a great deal of newsprint from a committee of editors working out of the Morning Post offices. In a London courtroom this morning at Bow Street Police Court, Mr. Shapurji Saklatvala, the Member of Parliament for North Battersea, was sentenced to 2 months' imprisonment for the speech he made at Hyde Park on May Day. The magistrate offered Mr. Saklatvala the alternative of being bound over to keep the peace. Mr. Saklatvala declined. He preferred, he told the court, the prison to the bond. The only avowed communist in the Imperial House of Commons has been sent to prison in the first week of a national strike for words spoken at a public rally. From Warsaw, the consultations of these past days have begun to settle. Of the names put forward to assemble the next coalition, that of Mr. Vincenti Witos of the Peasant Party is the one most often heard. The parties of the parliamentary right and center together hold a slim majority, but they are united upon almost nothing save their distaste for the working class parties on their left. A government built upon that foundation will not stand long. The British strike has, in these past 2 days, become the property of the working class beyond Britain. The reports reaching us through the columns of the working class press on the continent place the strike in a Europe that is not standing still alongside it. From Vienna comes a declaration of solidarity addressed to the British miner from the workers of the Warchalowski firm, the Austrian motor and aviation works, whose name has been on the lips of every striker in the Habsburg successor states since the Vienna metalworkers fought their long battle there 4 years past. From Norway, the columns of the Comintern's organ report a lockout still in progress against 20,000 Norwegian workmen, declared by the Norwegian Employers Federation a fortnight before the British coal owners served their own notices. The miners of 2 countries on opposite shores of the North Sea now stand locked out by the same calculation. From Budapest, a march of locked-out Hungarian miners is reported moving by foot upon the Hungarian capital, with demands kin to those of the men in the South Wales valleys, that wages already at the floor shall not be cut further to the satisfaction of the coal owner. These are not stories the wires of Reuters and the Associated Press have carried in any detail. They are carried in this country by the labor press, the foreign language papers of the immigrant working class, and the columns of the Communist International. They are reported here because they are the present condition of the world's labor, the field upon which the British struggle has fallen. In this country today, the Trade Union Educational League, the militant labor organization led by Mr. William Z. Foster, has issued an appeal to American workers. The appeal calls upon every American workman to refuse the handling of any cargo on any dock in any rail yard that bears the marks of strike breaking against the British miner. It calls upon every union local to take up immediate collections for the relief of the locked-out miners' families. It calls upon every American worker to press upon those in the maritime trades the simple proposition that no man may, in good conscience, load coal or carry cargo in the service of the British coal owners while the British miner stands locked out at the pit gate. The appeal is being carried today through the daily worker of this city and through the wider militant labor press of the country, alongside the call already issued by the Communist International from Moscow. That has been the full report of the day. This is Tribune of the Plebs, signing off for the night.
I leave the night time to the dreamers. I leave the songbirds to the blind. I leave the moon